Somebody was bringing up Donald Trump, how he's one of them, how he's actually a Jew. I don't know if that's true or not, but I did learn that these people came from Italy, Rome, the colonist family. They were converts into Judaism, all right, and they went into Rhineland. So that's how you got the German Jews. You had kingdoms like Khazaria that were converted. These people were Turkic people. They came from the Near East, all right? And so that's how we get a lot of our population of modern Jews. They are from Italy, they are from Greece, and so apparently Trump is possibly related to them. But, the girl corrected me and she said he's a Sabaean or a Shabaean. And I said I saw something like that yesterday. And then I remembered that I had looked up all these things concerning the Mizrahi Jews. So apparently the Yemenite Jews are the same as the Mizrahi Jews, and it's also funny because someone was commenting on one of my YouTube channels. Now I do a lot of research into the ancient Hebrews because I believe they're lying wholly about who is who, and found out, I think it's almost been a couple of years ago, that actually many of the people who we consider Jews were actually converts. So we have the Amorite kingdom in Axum. According to historical sources, the kingdom was named after its founder, Himyar. The story of the Himyarite kingdom begins in 110 BC when the tribe of Himyar decided to separate from the Kataban kingdom, another kingdom based in Yemen. They quickly got to work by establishing their capital, Zafar, and changing languages. To differentiate themselves from their past, they adopted the Sabaean language. Now, this kingdom sounds a bit to me like the Khazarian kingdom, and it's kind of making me think, is this what's actually going on with the U.S. right now? But we will definitely see. So it says the conversion of the Himyarite kingdom. The Himyarite kingdom was now huge, consisting of peoples who had once belonged to different kingdoms. The Himyarite kingdom needed a way to unite all these diverse peoples, each with their languages, religions, and customs. The Sabaean language spread quickly throughout the kingdom, and a standard calendar system was introduced. However, it would take nearly 100 years for changes to religion to become apparent. Each of the earlier kingdoms that now make up the Himyarite kingdom had once had its own religion. It is likely that one of the reasons for having Judaism as a state religion was to try and bring these disparate groups together under one religious banner. So it was the same thing with Khazaria, where King Bulan, he asked the Christian guy, he asked the Muslim guy, what religion would you choose if you weren't, doing your own? And they both said Judaism, and so he converted the whole kingdom into Judaism, basically uniting them. And so, like I said, I wonder if this is what is actually trying to go on right now, because I do believe Trump said something about, basically we all need one belief. On top of that, he's removing all these immigrants, different languages, different religions, yada, yada, yada. So I do believe that he is trying to bring us under perhaps the Noahide laws, this being Judaism again. How ironic. So, using archaeological evidence, we can estimate the date that the Himyarite kings converted to Judaism around 380 AD. So this is where you get your Yemenite, your Mizrahi Jews from. They were not originally Hebrews. They were not originally Jews. Continuing. It says, it was at this time that the old polytheistic temples were abandoned. Dedications to the old gods were replaced with references to a new figure called Ramanan. Ramanan means Lord of Heaven or Lord of Heaven and Earth. It is unclear who the first Jewish kings of the Himyarite kingdom was, but there was a couple of possibilities. It is thought that religious reform originally began under King Malikariba Yahamin, and that was 375 to 400 AD. His reign was a stable one, and this is often attributed to his attempts at unifying the nation through his religion. It was during his rule that we start to see dedications under the name Ramanan for him and his sons, and it was also King Yahamin who built the first Makrab, a house of prayer. So, I don't think it's a bad thing that people want to follow God's truth. And I certainly think if everyone were to follow God's truth, we would have a lot more peace in the earth, because He is the giver of peace. All wisdom that comes from above is first peaceable, all right? The problem is people mostly don't want to follow the belief, and even when they say that they do, they don't. And so, we end up with groups of people that use the word of God to try to subdue others, unrighteously and that kind of thing. And that's what has happened, right? So these people have not, and I don't want to say necessarily the Yemeni, but I would say more so the majority of the population of Israel. They have been using this fake identity in order to subdue other groups of people. And they have assigned this identity to other groups of people who are converts like themselves in order to negate who is actually the true Hebrews. In fact, they tell these true Hebrews that they cannot come to their country. They batter them in their country. They kick them out their country. Why? Because they know with the true Jews, there comes power. The oracles were passed down to us. And also you have men like Simeon Toko, who was a descendant of the ancient Hebrews that did really mighty feats. They literally tried to unalive this man, and he regenerated. It seems that Yahamin began the conversion to Judaism, but it was his son, Tuba Abu Kariba Assad, and that was 390 to 420 AD, who finished it. It is believed Abu Kariba converted wholeheartedly after an expedition in northern Arabia against the Byzantines. So the irony of that is many of the Sephardic Jews, they actually descend from the Byzantines. So here is a picture of the still inhabited city of Thula, Yemen. The Himmerite kingdom became a Jewish kingdom in what today is Yemen from around 380. So I wanted to jump down a little bit to this. It says the Babylonian Talmud was only recently completed in 500 CE and was still undergoing some minor revisions afterwards. However, the Jerusalem Talmud was completed in 300 CE. So I am wondering who this came from, because there's a lot of interesting things in the Talmud. Did it come from the actual Jews, or did it come from Jewish converts? One of the other things that's been on my mind are these pictures in which President Putin showed concerning the catacombs and how, the Israelites were black. Now, I think, to be fair, many of those depictions, they are of saints, and those saints could have been converts or not. For example, this man, Du Nawas, his real name was Yasuf Asur Yathar Yosef Nuas. Long names, also known as Mazrak in Syriac and Danas in medieval Greek, was a Jewish king of the Hebar region, reigning between 522 and 30 AD. And so this man, he was not originally a Jew, all right? He was an Arab, from my understanding, a convert of this kingdom. But looking at this photo, I would say this looks very similar to the photos that was in the catacombs of Russia, right? So this apparently is the most famous king and the last king of the Himyarite kingdom of Yemen, who adopted Judaism in 380 CE. Nothing is known about this important historical figure from any Jewish source, and nothing has been preserved in the historical memory or the oral and written traditions of the Jews of Yemen themselves. So, these people were actually Jewish converts. They were not the original Jews. Again, I'm not saying that, it's wrong to convert or anything, but what is wrong is trying to usurp the authority of the original Jews, trying to blot out their names by claiming that you are the original ones and that all authority comes under you. And the major problem I see with that on a world level is when you have a false group of people reigning who are just using, a false name, false title, false identity, and have let their conversion go to their head, then what ends up happening is wickedness comes about, right? And so this is what these people have done. They have ruled with wickedness. Apparently, the person, Herzl, who is partially responsible for the people over in Israel right now, was not even a believer in the Most High God. He was an atheist. But they used the identity of the Jews because they were Jewish converts in order to gain that land. Almost 2 millennia of the Jewish people residing in various countries without a national state, the Zionist movement was founded in the late 19th century by secular Jews. What is a secular Jew? That is a Jew who does not believe in the God that they claim to serve. I don't even know if they're claiming to serve it if they're secular. I mean, the whole word Jew comes from Yehuda, which means to praise God, correct? But, I digress. So, continuing, it says, the movement was founded in the late 19th century by secular Jews, largely as a response by Ashkenazi Jews to rising anti-Semitism in Europe. Now, I have to look a little bit more into that, because the fact of the matter is, why would you be anti-Semitic against a group of people who don't believe in God like you don't believe in God? So something seems a little off concerning that. But as many times as I have seen these people use the word anti-Semitic, literally speaking against the word of God, you never know. So this seems to be one of those words in which anyone can drop at any time to get you off their back. Continuing, it says, which was exemplified by the Dreyfus affair in France and the anti-Jewish pogroms in the Russian Empire. The political movement was formally established by the Austro-Hungarian journalist Theodor Herzl, the man who is an atheist, in 1897, following the publication of his book Der Judenstaat, The Jewish State. At that time, the movement sought to encourage Jewish migration to what was by then the Ottoman Palestine. So I remember in the 90s, even as a child, we would say peace in the Middle East, not even understanding why we were saying it. Well, I believe it was because there were a lot of wars going on in that area. Now, since these people have moved in the land, it seems to be nonstop war. But this is not really lining up with the scriptures, because the fact of the matter is, the Father says right here in Leviticus 26 that there's supposed to be peace when you go into the land. So it says, and I will give you peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. And I will rid evil beasts out of the land. Neither shall the sword go through your land, and ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight. Now, I know you might say, oh, well, isn't all this war putting these people to flight? No, this is not how we do it. So if you, first off, are supposed to be a quote-unquote Jew whose name means to praise Yah or praise Yahuwah, you should be giving credence to him. But you're not. You're secular. So then what you're going to do as a secular person is you're going to do everything out of your own strength. But this is not what King David did, okay? A person who's a true Jew truly praises Yah. They're going to give credence and glory. They're going to pray to the Father before a battle, and he will deliver their enemies into their hands. So 1 Samuel, it says, David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword, and I come to you with a spear and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of Yah of hosts, the Elohim of the armies of Israel, whom you have reproached. This day Yah shall deliver you into my hand, and I shall strike you. Notice how he says, Yah shall deliver you into my hand. So he is giving credence to the Most High. Now, jumping to the next page, and it says, and David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. Thus David was stronger than the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. And there was no sword in the hand of David. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of his sheath and killed him, and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. So David gave all honor, glory, credence to God. This is what caused him to win wars that he was in. And he didn't do it so that he could rule the world. He did it to the glory of the Most High. So these people, just like Trump is banishing immigrants from this country, as the Bible says, everyone has to go back to their lands in the last days. So, these people took on the false identity of being the true Israelites, and now they're starting to admit that they are descendants of Khazar. So, and they denied this whole New Jerusalem 2.0 thing for a while, just like they denied that they are Khazars, and now we're stating that they are. So there's nothing new under the sun with these people. They're going to get exactly what they deserve. So It says this is an article concerning this whole secret plan for reverse. Notice how they say reverse migration to the Ukraine. Ukraine is actually Khazaria, where they came from. As I spoke about earlier in the video, King Bulan was the king of Khazaria and converted his whole nation into Judaism. Now, this person put a whole article on the Israeli press concerning this, and apparently it was removed, and they stated that it was never on there. There are reports finding that Ashkenazi Jews descend from Turks. Persian Jews converted Turks to Judaism to create the rump of what would become today's Jewish population, DNA research has revealed. This is very important because when you do your DNA test, if you get any bit of what they are, it'll state that you're Jewish. But if they're not the original Jews, how does that even make sense? Now, it is interesting, though, because from my DNA research of these people, the Ashkenaz are closely related to Italians, Greeks, and Cyprians. Sephardic Jews are closer related to Turks. And so I think it's interesting because they say, oh, the Palestinians are the real Jews. But looking at this, the genetic profile Palestinians has for the first time been studied using human leukocyte antigen, gene variability, and haplotypes. The comparison with other Mediterranean populations by using neighbor-joining dendrograms and correspondence analyses reveal that Palestinians are genetically very close to Jews and other Middle Eastern populations, including Turks, Lebanese, Egyptians, Armenians, and Iranians. So these people are all the same. Okay? They are the same lineage for the most part. That is why people consider them Jews, because they're using the same haplotypes concerning that. But the fact of the matter is they're all converts. So they're lying about who is true and who isn't. Could that be why they don't want them to do DNA tests? So this is their plan for the map of heavenly Jerusalem in Ukraine. So you can see their emblem at the top left there, the six-pointed star, which they claim is the Star of David, but is actually Star of Remphan. That has absolutely nothing to do with the kingdom of David or any Israelite for that matter. And there's other evidence of it right here. You got Khazaria. And then this little card that I always found interesting. Let's see what it has to say. An ancient and subtle brotherhood, the elders known well the art of conspiracy. They can monetize your entire power structure, and guess who rules all the banks and owns all the NBA teams? This must take place in your turn and requires their action and action on your Illuminati. So when Kanye said that these people own all this stuff, he wasn't lying. But anyway, that's the thing. Secular people took the identity of Jacob, created a whole world system, and the father's basically like, your time is up, go back to the land that you came from. And so I think what is going to end up happening is unfortunately something very bad. What's wild is all the money we have sent to them over the years, thinking that they were God's chosen people when they don't even believe in him. Now let's read a little more about this. So it says, Rabbi Schneerson in his comments, the fact-checkers will always tell you that no such statements were made, and indeed the original comments were made in a letter published in Vologda newspaper, Slavian in Russia. So basically they're saying that yes, this was actually published, but it wasn't published where they stated it was, because they will never tell you the full story. Heavenly Jerusalem, also New Jerusalem, Israel 2.0, not to be confused with the kingdom of heaven that comes down from, heaven, is a project whose goal is the formation of a Jewish state inside of Ukraine and the territories of its 5 southern regions. The project is long-term. Its terms are determined by the Council of Benefactors, and the time is described until 2049 and even after 2060. According to I. Berkut, author of the IDEN, executive director of the project, the New Jerusalem 5 plus 5 plus 5 project, starting in 2014, the first 5 years are rotting and decomposition of the existing system. The next 5 years are destruction and fragmentation after 19, and the 5 years after 2024 are reformatting. 2029 is the first step for end. Thus, by the end of of 2029, about 5 million Jews are scheduled to arrive in the new homeland for the construction of the New Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already discussed the organization of the resettlement and the settlement of Jews, as well as possible economic and political assistance in the implementation of the project with the current Prime Minister of Ukraine. So why do you think that they started this war in Ukraine in the first place? Why do you think they are killing tons of innocent Palestinians and pouring phosphorus over them, which is also part of what makes luciferase? So it says an official announcement about the New Jerusalem project is planned to be made after the adoption of the law of the decentralization of Ukraine in 2021 through 22. In July 2019, Switzerland allocated 25 million, including for the purpose of decentralization of Ukraine. Wow, Switzerland, who would have known? Okay, anyway, the New Jerusalem project started at the beginning of 2017. Switzerland. Isn't that where the seat of Satan is? I'm not sure. Somebody can put in the comments if they like. But it says, with the landing in the port of Odessa of the first group of immigrants from Israel led by Burkut, this group of 183 Jewish pioneers arrived in Ukraine from Haifa, Israel, to lay the first stone in the foundation of the heavenly Jerusalem on the fertile soil of southern Ukraine. In accordance with these reforms, in 2017, the Minister of Social Affairs politician A. Reva stated, not only are there too many Ukrainians, but they also eat a lot. So, this is what these people do. You eat too much. Like, someone was saying something about Truth Unedited, and one of her comments about him is, he uses too many big words and he's too verbose. And this was her slight towards him. We just can't understand what you're saying, so we're going to use what we can against you. So anyway, Grosmain, and by the way, she's a Roman, she's an Edomite, in turn found courage for the first time in history of Ukraine, declared, Ukrainians study too much. Like, what are you even talking about? And it says here, we both understand that for a Ukrainian child, it should be Kavun Day, Sebul Day, Embroidery Day. For a Jewish child, it should be Physics, Chemistry, and Programming Day. Now, you're stating that these people study too much, but these are the days you want to celebrate. Basically, what they're saying is, if you can't take care of yourself, we're going to have to tell you the way that you should live. And so, I get this a lot. People often think, oh, well, we've ruled for so long. You little black people, they had said, oh, what's the biggest threat? Oh, young black people. And everybody was like, what are they even talking about? Well, we're the biggest threat because we're going to think for ourselves, and because we owe nothing to you and you owe us everything, and also because we're the chosen people of God. So they automatically think like you're dumb and that they should have power over you because it is a method for them to try to control you. Reflecting on the future convenient transport between Israel and New Jerusalem, Burkut allowed for the use of comfortable airships. The interesting thing is that everything that the Jewish soul desires will be installed on them, including swimming pools and playgrounds. Wow. 2 existing nuclear power plants on the territory of the future New Jerusalem are supposed to be used for Bitcoin mining. Mining of cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin is based on the proof of work method, in which the probability of creating the new block is higher for the owner of more powerful equipment. So my assumption is this is almost going to be like the US but crazier. So it says in which the probability of participating, blah blah blah. Anyway, they're basically trying to set up everything on earth, build their kingdom on earth according to the desires of their own hearts, which is nothing but the heart of Babylon, really. So I started thinking about Elon Musk and how he did that Nazi salute recently. So the Hittites were an ancient group of people who established an empire in Anatolia, which is now Turkey. And what did it say earlier about the Palestinians? That they are descendants of the Turks, Anatolia. All right. Elon is actually in the Bible. The first Elon mentioned in the Bible is found in Genesis 26:34 and Genesis 36:2. He was the father of Basemath, one of Esau's wives. Esau, the son of Isaac and Rebekah, married Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. Hittites or Turks, Anatolians. So could it be that these people are actually the descendants of Esau? Well, according to their own documentation, it says that Edom is in modern Jewry, the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 5, page 41, 1925 edition. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. That's from the Jewish Almanac, 1980, page 3. The Edomites arrived in Edom at the end of the 14th and the beginning of the 13th century BCE. Encyclopedia Judaica, Volume 6, page 372. And you can actually look this up online. It is truly written. Here is an excerpt from the Encyclopedia, the Jewish Almanac, 1980, page 3. No one can deny that the Jews are a most unique and unusual people. That uniqueness exists because of their Edomite heritage. You cannot be an English Jew. We are a race, and only as a race can we perpetuate. Our mentality is of Edomite character. It differs from that of an Englishman. Enough subterfuges. Let us assert openly that we are international Jews. Manifesto of the World Jewish Federation through its spokesperson Gerald Solomon, January 1st, 1935. So this was literally what? Did they move in 42 or 48? I don't know. But it was not long before the time that they moved into that land, confessing that they are not the biblical Israelites, that they are Edomites. Continuing, the non-Israelite Edomites became a section of the Jewish people. Edom, Encyclopedia Judaica. We have the non-Israelite Edomites were then incorporated with the Jewish nation. From then on, the non-Israelite Edomites constituted a part of the Jewish people. Herod, king of Judea, being one of their descendants, and that is also something that you can see in the Bible. Herod, or Herod the Great, was a Roman Jewish client of Herodias, kingdom of Judea. Herod was born around 72 BC in Idumea, south of Judea. That is also Edom. He was the second son of Antipater the Idumean, a high-ranking official under Ethnarch Hyrcanus II. So I don't know if this Hyrcanus is related to the one that converted all the Idumeans, but it could be. So it says, in Cyprus, a Nabatean Arab princess from Petra in the present-day Jordan. Herod's father was by descent an Edomite. His ancestors had been forcibly converted to Judaism. So yeah, it probably was. Herod was raised a Jew. Strabo, a contemporary of Herod, held that the Idumeans, whom he identified as the Nabatean origin, constituted the majority of the population of Western Judea, where they commingled with the Judeans and adopted their customs. So these people were converts, guys. This is a view shared also by some modern scholarly works which considered Idumeans to be either Arab or Nabatean in origin. Thus, Herod's ethnic background was Arab on both sides of his family, according to Josephus. So Herod is known in the Bible to be the one who actually killed all the male children in Bethlehem, and in all that region who were 2 years old were under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. So he was basically trying to get rid of the Messiah. This is no different than them employing Planned Parenthood, which was made by a woman named Margaret Sanger, who was a eugenicist, and this woman thought that blacks and disabled people were below everyone else. But the fact of the matter is, she was a Luciferian who hated the true lineage of Israel. So continuing, it says, then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. He is known for his colossal building projects throughout Judea. Among these works are rebuilding of the Second Temple in Jerusalem and the expansion of its base, the Western Wall being part of it. Someone said something very interesting. What does going to a wall and praying to it have anything to do with anything in the Bible? Does it have anything to do with Kabbalah, where they believe praying to a wall could be the interpretation of unseen forces that might be accessed through symbolic barriers? E, as in Hermeticism, the idea of as above, so below, can be applied to a wall. The physical wall represents a gateway to a deeper spiritual reality. So here's some imagery used to represent that. As you can see, there is a six-pointed star. You have an image, a reflection below. You have the pyramid, which usually has an all-seeing eye. You have the sun above. Usually when you see that sun, it represents some kind of paganism. And typically the sun and the moon emblem is a symbol of witchcraft as well. And then you also have the Baphomet here. You'll see a five-pointed star on his forehead. You'll see what looks to be two moons. Some people think that this is perhaps also where the sign of Hitler came from. Could be, could be not, but you will also see this double serpent around the staff. That is where you get the staff of the medical industry. That is the staff of Hermes, the god of banks, thieves, liars, and medicine. This is why Galatians 5:19 through 21 states all the things in which people will do and which will cause them not to inherit the kingdom of God. One of those being sorcery. That word in Greek is pharmakeia, and it means literally medication, magic, sorcery, witchcraft. So they're interchangeable. Now we know Hermes is a Greek god, but considering these people have that lineage of Greece, should that be a surprise? Now here we have their lineage. They are very close to the Hellenic Roman, the Byzantine and the Roman, the Byzantine Roman and the Romate, the Seleucid and the Hellenic Roman. Now, many of these doctors have to take what is called a Hippocratic oath, where they swear by these fallen gods, these fallen angels, Apollo, Asclepius, Hygienia, Panchaea, all right, and even Hermes. They have to swear by these gods. These are Greek gods, okay? They are fallen angels. Now, these people are descendants of the Greeks and the Romans, so I guess it really shouldn't be a surprise that they will want to honor their gods. Going back to this creature here called the Baphomet, this is a goat, correct? It's a he-she goat. And so I want to bring some light to Edom again. Esau went into the land of Seir. Now, this goat is prominent because you have the name of the mountainous region occupied by the Edomites, which is called Seir, okay? Now, at the bottom, Seir means seraph or hairy goat, demon, tempest. The Hebrew word seir primarily refers to a male goat, often used in context of sacrificial offerings and as a symbol of sin and atonement in the Old Testament. It can also denote a hairy or shaggy creature, sometimes translated as satyr, and in certain contexts referring to mythological creatures or demons in the wilderness. In ancient Israelite culture, goats were common livestock and held significant religious importance. The male goat, or satyr, was often used in sacrificial rituals, particularly on the Day of Atonement, where one goat was sacrificed and another was sent into the wilderness as the scapegoat. The term seir also appears in context describing desolate places inhabited by wild creatures or demonic entities, reflecting ancient Near Eastern beliefs about the wilderness as a realm of chaos and spiritual danger. Queen Elizabeth, she actually had a goat leading her funeral. And I said, well, what's that about? Now, I was doing some cleaning, and there was a man who had this curly dark hair, and then he went and he put this headband around his head. And I said, Now, he was previously saying things to me, and I was like, this sounds like Satan speaking literally. Well, we had went to lunch, and I'm just scrolling through, I don't know what I was going through, but this coin pops up that looks exactly like this. I said, okay, that looks like him. And this is a Greek coin. Perhaps I was looking up things about the eagle because I found out that the eagle represents Greece and Rome and America, and I think Egypt as well. And then later on, I see this print pattern, and I said, this has something to do with Greece. There's something related to Greece concerning this situation. So while the original Greeks were sons of Japheth, what ended up happening is Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came from the land of Kittim, had defeated Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. He succeeded him as king. He had previously become king of Greece. So They were under Edomite rulership, basically. You know what happens whenever a group of people rules? They end up moving there. They end up integrating with the people. They bring their people, yada, yada, yada. As far as the Romans, the rabbis associated Edom with Rome as a way to counter the Christian claim that Esau was the spiritual ancestor of the Jews. The rabbis believed that the Romans were spiritual heirs to Esau, not direct genetic descendants. The rabbis used the term Edom to refer to Rome in both the pagan and Christian periods. The rabbis compared Rome to a boar in Leviticus Rabbah. History informs us that Edom was conquered by Albanus, king of Chittim, and Edom became under the children of Chittim from that day. And this is the reason the prophet Isaiah speaks in the 23rd chapter connectivity of Edom and Chittim as one and the same place and people. See verses 1, 12, 13, and compare with Jeremiah 10. This explains where the shape or the ships of Shittim come from, Rome or the Roman Empire mentioned in Numbers 24:24. Kedar, a descendant of Ishmael. So Rome, Edom, and Christianity became and are synonymous with Babylon. And the father told me that a while ago. So I don't know why people are associating America solely with Babylon. But continuing, it says, and therefore it's called mystical Babylon, not only because she has her rise from them, but because of her great confusion of tongues, as took place in Babel or Babylon, which is confusion, and also from her many sects and divisions springing from that cause. So like we said earlier, you had Bulan, which was trying to unite the people under one language, under one tongue, under one religion. And this seems like what is happening in America right now, which is why Trump says we have to unite under one belief. Continuing, we know too and are certain that all of the Protestants first separated themselves and came out from Rome, or the Roman Catholics in the 16th century at the Reformation, so-called by Martin Luther. So, by this we see Protestants are of the seed of Rome, and Rome is of the seed of Kittim or Chittim, and the book of Jasher. All Protestants declare that mystical Babylon is Rome. And you see this in the Christian church. Why? Because they neglect the Sabbath, they neglect the laws, they decided to take up Sunday as the quote-unquote Sabbath, which they deny, and they have other things, Christmas, Easter, things that are not even written in the Bible that come from ancient pagan worship from Catholicism, which is from Rome. So the Christian church too is Edom. And if you get in conversations with these people as well, you will see that they try to deny the heritage of Israel, stating that they are the ones that the Father has chosen, seeing very well that all the disciples are the children of Israel. Also, when you state that there are 12 gates to heaven, they seem to be in denial of that. So what does this sound like? It is a fulfillment of the prophecy of the book of Gad the seer, which is mentioned in 1 Chronicles 29:29. Woe to you, O Edom, that sits in the land of Kittim, in the north of the sea, for your destroyers will emerge from a terrible nation. They will not even leave you a remnant, for you have said, I sit on high, and only I have a covenant with the God of gods. For the Lord chose me instead of his lineage, his holy people, for he abhorred them. He abhorred us, but then he rose from the dead for us. Crazy. And his former people despised and rejected, did not know his image, the Son. We have Jesus. Yes, we deny his laws and we keep pagan holidays, but we know the Son. And it says, we truly are wise and intelligent, for we have went to seminary school. But no, we can't hear from God. And so we tell people that God doesn't talk to people anymore, because the oracles were passed down to the Israelites, not to the Gentiles. So continuing, it says, we're truly wise and intelligent. We know the Lord and his law. We only use the KJV. We know his image, the Son, and his presence, the Holy Spirit. But thus says the Lord, because you rose up in pride to brag about the God of gods, know that you will perish in your conceitedness. For why would you put confidence in a man whose life is a vapor, which begins in the morning and is gone by noonday? placing him to sit beside God. For it is not you who I knew formerly, Gentiles. And where is the bill of divorce of my people that you said would be a prey? Show it to me. So these people will say, oh, well, God divorced Israel, not understanding that that very verse in Romans is connected to the verse in Hosea where it says, those who are not my people will be called my people. And who was he talking to? He was talking to the Israelites. So these are Israelites that got scattered to the four corners of the globe because of their disobedience. And the Messiah came. He said, I only come for the lost sheep of Israel to redeem them. So this is not a religion that is owned by the Gentiles. It goes first to the Jew and then to the Gentiles. That means the way that your churches are ran, they are not in order. There should be Jews in the congregation. And if there are not Jews, well, no wonder your churches still celebrate pagan holidays, deny the laws of God, deny the Sabbath, and then still call yourself holy and righteous, that you are the chosen people, but you are children of Edom. And so this whole thing is simply about the denomination of this group of people. This is also why Paul says in Romans 11:18, do not consider yourself to be superior to those other branches. If you do, consider this: you do not support the root, but the root supports you. So you will tell these people in the church, hey, God heals. Maybe you shouldn't go get chemotherapy. Who are you to say? Those doctors, their hands are under God, even though they made a Hippocratic oath to other gods, and the very first commandment is thou shalt have no other gods. We're much wiser than you. We are. Do you know who we are? So I've been kicked out of several churches, just as it says that the disciples will be, because we actually tell them what the truth is, and they don't want to hear it. Because their faith is not in God. Their faith is in themselves. Their faith is in their pastors. Their faith is in this Roman Catholicism that they follow, which has the likeness of God, but denies the power thereof. And it was so funny because I was talking to this girl the other day, and, you know, she's a believer or whatever, and she's telling me all her plans for her life, and I'm like, do you know that America's about to go to war and it's about to be taken over by Russia and China? And, you know, I'm getting these things because the prophecies are passed down to us. They're not passed down to them. And so the first thing she does is get offended, because what they're doing is building up their treasures on earth and not in heaven. And because of the rulership through money and materialism, they're still ruling on this earth. But the time of the Gentiles is almost up. I'm like, why does it even matter what you build up at this point? It's over with. It's done. This whole thing is going kaput. You should be worried about what you're doing with the Father at this point. The Spirit of God identifies Edom with Babylon. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, make it bare, or destroy the temple as Edom did under the Romans, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, here we see, without any possibility of mistake, that Edom is Babylon, and all sacred and profane history confirms it. That's why it says, Babylon will fall. Chaldea, or Babylon, was established by Assyria. Isaiah 23:13 says, behold, the land of the Chaldeans. This people was not till the Assyrian founded it for them. The capital of Chaldea was Babylon. The Assyrian Empire embraced the country on both sides of the Tigris. Babel, or Babylon, was founded by Nimrod. So Nimrod was, I believe, a son of Ham. And so we have to be fair concerning this, because it's not just white people, it's also black people. So it says the Assyrians, descended from Taurus and Caucasus. Interesting. Conquered and destroyed Jerusalem together with Syria, and these, with Phoenicia, became the Roman Empire and was called Chaldea, as it was the time of Jesus under Tiberius Caesar. From the east, the Chaldeans, or the Romans, people all the west, first Italy, Rome, France, Germany, England, and America. Rome was founded by Romulus. After Jesus, 325, Christianity became the established religion under Constantine. Hence, Babylon, Rome, Edom, and Christianity are synonymous. So it says previously that Romulus founded Rome. Now, the Romulans are a race in the American science fiction franchise Star Trek. Their adopted homeworld is Romulus, and within the same star system, they have settled a sister planet, Remus. Their original homeworld, Vulcan, was renamed Ni'Var later on in their canon. They first appeared in the series Star Trek. Now, the thing with this Romulus and Remus, they were actually the sons of Rhea, which I believe was a human woman, and also the god of war, who was Mars. So these people are Nephilim. Can you even call them people at that point? So this is why you see in Star Trek this Vulcan by the name of Spock doing this hand signal, and also why you see these people in Judaism doing the same hand signal all the time. So many of you are familiar with this gentleman. His name is Adolf Hitler, and one of the things he's known for is popularizing this Nazi salute. And it's coming full circle. So we have this person, thing, whatever, known as Elon, who is the name of the Hittite, right? Whom Bathsheba married Esau, Bathsheba being the son of the Hittite. You see this dystopian donkey doing this Nazi salute, and that is what he's doing. I know a lot of people were like, oh no, he's autistic. I can tell you, as someone who was previously on the spectrum before I came to God, the whole autism thing, you need to get your life cleaned up by God. That's it. All this happens because of our disobedience. Curses are passed down through lineages, all that kind of stuff. So this salute actually originates from the Romans. It is called the Roman salute, also known as the fascist salute, a gesture in which the right arm is fully extended. And which arm does he have extended? It would be the right arm, facing frontward with palm down and fingers touching. In some versions, the arm is raised upward at an angle, others it's held out parallel to the ground. In contemporary times, it is commonly considered a symbol of fascism. So what's fascism? It's a term used to describe the authoritarian, nationalist political ideologies or mass movements that are concerned with the notions of cultural decline or decadence and seek to achieve millenarian national rebirth by exalting the nation or race and promoting cults of unity, strength, and purity. So, that's obviously what Hitler did. And the nation of America seems to kind of be going that way, just because Trump has removed the legacy of, I think it was the Tuskegee Airmen. He seems to want to blot out black history a little bit. He's removing the immigrants. This whole, the birthright being removed for people that have parents of foreign countries and they're born in this country. So like I said, it seems like they are trying to bring people under one language, one belief, perhaps stamp out anyone who doesn't necessarily look like them. Which is fine. Like, send me back to Africa. I know it's been about 5, 6, 7 generations, but at the end of the day, my people, the actual Israelites, were stolen from the land of Abraham. You can read that in Genesis 15:18. It doesn't say anything about Europe or the Middle East. It's in Africa. And if you read your Bible, you would know that. So, also Zephaniah 3:10, where it states that I will bring my people from beyond the rivers of Cush. Where is Cush? Cush is the son of Ham. They're in Africa. So, these people were from Africa. They're still in Africa. And we're also over here in wherever they scattered us to in the transatlantic slave trade. You will see that there's an area called Ouida in West Africa where the man, Sir Francis Richard Burton, a French geographer, went to that land called Dahomey and stated there was 115 towns of the tribe of Judah in that area. And this is where the slaves were taken from. So, that's the thing. They can send us back. That would be great. You took us from that land in the first place, and it does say that everyone must go back to their lands at the end of the day. So, we have what's going on in South Africa right now. From my understanding, it was actually the Bantus that went into South Africa, and they usurped the land from the people who were already there, which were not the Dutch. It could have been the Khoikhoi or the Sans people, which are maybe from Congo. And so, we're going to see what's happening with that. We got this man, Abraham Traore, from Burkina Faso, who I believe is a Sunni Muslim, which I don't know how that situation is going to work. I kind of felt like he's Ishmael, not an Israelite, but sometimes the Israelites take on the identity of the Ishmaelites as well. And so we're going to see how this plays out with the whole Pan-African thing. But I know he seems to be doing major feats right now. So some people are stating that there's possibly going to be a second Exodus where people go into the wilderness. I was kind of getting signs of it last year when I was in Africa. And, we're just going to see what happens concerning that. But, if it were to happen, we have to understand, though the Father is saving us out of this place, it doesn't mean that's that. The Israelites, they were saved out of Egypt, which if you look at the back of the $1 bill, you will see a pyramid on it as well as the bird of Ra. And so, which is an eagle from my understanding. And so the book of Obadiah talks about the fall of Edom. It's all connected there. They had to be obedient to Yah, or else they would have fell through to the earth. Those serpents would have came and bit them and such. So while a lot of them went into the desert, many of them did not come out the desert.